we see blood on the ground of the skate park, as we see Rob standing over his dead daughter, as Ragnar looks at him and says, "Yeah, look at me. Do we have a partnership or not?" Rob looks at Vel and the others, and he notices how terrified they look, as he makes the choice and says, "We're all yours." Ragnar smiles as we see a big van shows up, as the Skull Hunters take everyone and put them in the back of the van, as Ragnar says, "We'll be at Wyoming by the end of the day." As they all pull out, we see our group in the back of the van, as Rob looks at everyone, covered in blood, and says, "They were the predators, and now we're the fucking prey." "10 days later, we see Ragnar driving a fancy car as he's driving over a bridge, as we then see him say, 'Ah, home at last.'" He drives across the bridge as we see a huge village of people, as we see a huge casino building at the top of a hill, as we see this is Ragnar's home, Wyoming. He parks the car and steps out as he walks towards the casino resort, as he walks past a few guards, as he then gets into an elevator, as we see him go down to the underground parking garage. As the elevator door opens, we see everyone. Rob, Mara, Ryder, Vel, and Holly all sitting in the corner on a cold floor. As Rob stands up to Ragnar and says, "It's been 10 days you've kept us locked up in here." Ragnar says, "Yes, and hopefully not one less. Rob, come with me." Vel stands up and says, "How do we know you'll even come back with him in one piece?" Ragnar says, "Well, that's simple, darling. Good behavior and loyalty. That'll go a long way for all of you." He walks away with Rob as we see Rob and him in the elevator. As we then see Rob is looking at the 3 guards in the elevator with Ragnar. As we then see he's counting how many different soldiers he sees. As Ragnar says, "You won't look at me. And here I thought 10 days might have been effective for you to get with the program. But if that's not enough, then I'll have no other choice but to kill another one of them. This time, though, it'll be your choice." Rob looks nervous and says, No, I understand, boss." Ragnar smiles and says, "Wow, you called me boss again. It feels like time never moved." We see Ryder in the garage with the others, as we see he's trying to make a makeshift weapon out of wood, as Mara says, "Stop, you're gonna get yourself killed." Ryder says, "Well, at least I'm doing something, and as soon as they come in that front door again, I'm gonna make real quick work of them." As we then hear, a camera is moving, showing they're being watched. As Ryder then gets up looking pissed off and looks at the camera and says, "Well, now that you see me, I might as well announce it to you. I am your worst nightmare waiting to happen." Mara says, "Stop, it's gonna go too far." Ryder laughs and says, "Look at us. I think it's done gone too far." We see Ragnar takes Rob to a fancy room, as we see food laid out and classical music playing in the background, as Ragnar says, "This place will be yours for the time being, till you get adjusted for now." Rob says, "What about my friends? What the hell is this place?" Ragnar says, "Wyoming was passed down to me by my father. You met him a time or two. The place had to go somewhere." Rob says, "This is a casino and resort?" Ragnar says, "Sure is. Although we've expanded a lot since then. We're a thriving community now that's been growing ever since. You follow my lead tonight and you'll get to see it, old friend." Rob says, "What's tonight?" Ragnar says, "Well, since you didn't try to kill me when we left from there to now, I ordered my men to get your people all cleaned up and well dressed. We have a Christmas dinner tonight, because like I always say, it's for our amusement and our enjoyment." Rob says, "Of course, we'll all be there." Ragnar walks out and says, "Hall 8 at 6 o'clock. Don't be late. I want to see you and your people there." Rob says, "We will be there." Ragnar walks out as he is left alone, as Rob then takes a pen and paper and writes down 4 in the garage, 3 in the elevator, 2 in the mall, as he puts the note under the carpet, as he then looks out the window to see a huge village with Christmas lights all around, as we see Wyoming. We see Rob walking the village of Wyoming, as we see Christmas lights and trees all around. We see Rob walking into the main building, as he sees Mara, Ryder, Vel, and Holly sitting at a big table, as we see an empty chair on the other end. As Rob sits down and asks them, "Are you guys okay?" Mara says, "Yeah, we're fine. You?" Rob says, "Yeah, I'm fine." Ryder says, "Well, they won't be. When I get my chance, I'm gonna..." Mara says, "Hey, we'll get away, but not like this, okay?" Rob says, "Shh, he's coming." We see Ragnar walking into the building, as he is seen whispering something to one of his men, as he walks up and sits at the end of the table, as we see Rob on the other end of the table, as he says, "Hello, boss. Thank you for having us." Ragnar says, "Well, thank you. You are here so I can talk to you all about this wonderful place of ours called Wyoming." Everyone looks on edge as he looks at Mara and says, "Hey, it ain't gonna stay warm for long." He smiles at her as they all look nervous to eat. Ragnar looks at Ryder and says, "I saw your plan. You were making some weapons in there, trying to raise a little prison army. Good on you for trying." Ryder says, "Yeah, it's temporarily on pause. It's gonna happen." Rob says, "Ryder, stop." Ragnar says, "Well, that's why Rob here was famous, and why you look like you came out of a mental asylum." Ryder then punches the table and says, "You are not gonna tell me what to do. People are looking for me. They're gonna find me. And as a matter of fact, when they do, I will take care of you myself." Ragnar smiles and says, "Rob, it appears like our little conversation may have had a little bit of a misunderstanding. So why don't you tell your man here to back down before this turns into the dinner scene from Django Unchained?" As Rob looks at Ryder and says, "Ryder, you are out of line and you need to stop right now before they kill us all." Ryder says, "Alright, fine. So what do we have in here anyway? Got some more of Urban's finest? Let me ask, is it male or female here on my plate, Ragnar?" Vel Hazer pipes in and says, "You know, the man has a point. How do we know that this isn't some kind of fuckery here? How do we know that we're not digging into human meat?" Ragnar then looks at them and says, "You don't? I'm sorry, was that a problem? And you know what, I'm personally offended. If you really think that I'm anything like that bottom feeder Urban, then think again. I only kept him around because he had the numbers. And that leads me to why you're all here tonight.
and they're not. You all had the strength to take out Urban, and that's a start. However, I don't see the trust yet. However, Vel, if you don't want to eat, that's fine. I'll have my man here take it and put it in the fridge for you later. We can't be wasting food now. Besides, this ain't an all-you-can-eat deadhead buffet.
Mara sees her chance to calm the situation down and starts fake laughing. She looks at the group and makes them follow along. As the group laughs together, as Ryder then says under his breath, that's a good one.
You fucking cocksucker. Ragnar says, you will all be assigned homes, you will all be having jobs, and you will all serve Wyoming as Rob's people. And thanks to him, you're all here. Bon appetit.
We see Rob walking to his room. As he then closes the door, as we see, he's taking off his jacket as he turns the light on. As he then sees Ragnar sitting on his couch with a gun in his hands, as he then says,
well, hey, Rob. Sorry for barging in.
Rob looks shocked and says,
what are you doing here?
Ragnar says,
well, dinner went well. I hope nothing like that will ever go on in the future. Wouldn't want to ruin your image in front of your people now, wouldn't you?
Rob says, it won't happen again. Ragnar cuts him off and pulls out the paper under the rug and says,
oh, it won't now. Well, what do we have ourselves here?
He reads,
4 soldiers in the garage, 3 soldiers in the elevator, 2 in the hall, 1 in the blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you understand all right. Very good work. However, our agreement is based on honesty. And this has clearly shown that I can't have this. So what's it gonna be, Rob? Because after tonight, I can at least think of a few of your people after acting out tonight that I could force you to kill in order for us to have an understanding. You wouldn't want more blood on your hands now, would you?
Rob puts his head down in anger and says,
no, sir.
Ragnar says,
well?
We hear a growling sound from behind Rob. He turns around to then see Frost. As we then see, it's just staring him down. As he then looks on edge, as we then see, there's still some dried up blood in Frost's mouth. As Rob just closes his left fist, and Ragnar says,
yeah, I still didn't clean her properly after that night. She left quite the mess back there. That piss you off, Rob?
As Rob then looks at him and realizes this is a test. As he then puts out his right hand and shakes Ragnar's hand and says,
there will be no more lies. We are here, and we are present. We are the prey.
Ragnar says,
wonderful. Welcome aboard, Rob. Oh, and by the way, I left you a little something. You're gonna need it for next week. I think you're gonna like it.
As he walks out, as Rob then stands there with his hands shaking, as he walks over to the couch and opens this box, as he then sees what's inside, as he then sees an electric guitar left in the box, as he says,
you want a little show? I'll give you a show, motherfucker.